Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Well, good afternoon. So we have heard about loyalty programs and loyalty points and cards and some of those things, and I'm going to take you on a little bit of a different journey. My approach today is to talk to you a little bit about how you can use social media to build loyalty and relationships with your customer. And so not quite the same as the programs, but I would argue this is probably just as important in today's day and age. So what is Ampm? So Ampm, we have 950 convenience stores across California, Arizona, Nevada, Washington, and Oregon. We have a 30-plus year history. So for those of you from the West Coast, you've probably seen us alongside an Arco gas station. We are a full franchise business, 100% franchised, and we've been around for quite some time. We average over 600,000 customer visits a day. And if you think about that, that's over 225 million visits a year. So we got a lot of customers coming in and out of our stores. We sell over $1 billion a year in corn dogs and soda, beer and snacks. Our target customer is the blue-collar male who's on the go. And what we are trying to do is to satisfy their needs and cravings with a huge variety of quick drinks and snacks for them to choose from. So two key things I'd like to tell you about my brand as we dig in. The first is our brand personality, and why I think this is important is when you see my examples and I show you how we talk to our customers, that brand personality comes out. I think it's very important. And so for those of you who have not seen our TV spots or been privy to some of our commercials, we are very playful, unapologetic, and irreverent in the way we talk to our customers. And our tagline, which you can see on the bottom right there under the Ampm logo, is "Too much good stuff." And that actually also matters because sometimes our customers talk to us about stuff. So, first question I guess you might ask yourself is, why social media? Why should you do this? And I would tell you that whether you like it or not, customers are talking about you, and they might even be trying to talk to you. I was recently on an airplane sitting next to somebody who was doing some consulting for a big restaurant chain, and he was telling me about how this chain is a very big chain, that they're actually not on social media because two reasons. One, he said perhaps the senior management, either they're kind of too old or they're not participating in social media, that they quite get how it works. But the other thing is that they're very worried about the risk of kind of what can go wrong when you're live communicating with your customers. And so what this guy did was he actually pulled up while he was in this meeting, this restaurant, on Twitter and showed them. They actually had over 50,000 tweets and posts about their company, and they weren't even actively playing in the space. And so my point is, the customers are out there talking about you, and they're probably trying to talk to you. And so I think the questions you've got to ask yourself: do you want to know what they're saying? And once you know what they're saying, you have to decide, what are you going to do about it? And I think you have to decide, what do you do if you don't like what they're saying? Because frankly, that happens more than you might think. So just a few quick statistics. You've seen these probably a million times, but my other case for why social media is important is that it's big, if not huge. As you've heard, so Facebook, they have over 1 billion users. There are 340 million tweets per day on Twitter, so just a ton of activity out there. And the other thing that's kind of important to think about, so for Facebook as an example, and I think this is actually a bit outdated, but they say the average Facebook user has 130 friends. And so sometimes people will say, well, why are you bothering with Twitter or Facebook? You're just talking, it's this one-on-one conversation. It's a waste of resource and time and money. But actually, what happens when you talk to one person on Facebook and all of their friends are following, they've just picked up on your message. I'm going to show you some examples of where somebody tweets something and they've got 100,000 followers. That message gets out there much faster than you might think. So as we talk about the customer and customer service, 62% of customers actually have used social media for customer service issues. And I read in a Mashable from a study by A.T. Kearney that of the top 50 brands, 56% did not respond to a single customer comment on their Facebook page in 2011, and that brands ignored 71% of customers' complaints on Twitter. And so, here's another one. 55% of consumers expect a response the same day to an online complaint, while only 29% receive one. So to me, these are all very compelling statistics and reasons why, once again, if you're not out there, you probably should be. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we use it and then give you some examples. And so I'm going to pull up two things to talk to you a little bit about the difference between how we use Facebook and Twitter. Most of you probably already know this, but Facebook, we have a page, and we can post things on our page, and our customers can post things on our page. And we actually control what people see and what they read about our brand. So if somebody posts something and I don't like it, or we don't like what they're saying, it's controversial, it's inflammatory, it's inappropriate, I can pull it down real time, and I have control over what people are saying about my brand. The difference, or the flip side of that, is Twitter. And Twitter, we cannot control what is said about our brand. We can choose to engage or to not engage, but we cannot choose we can't control what people say. And so these things are out there, whether you want them to be or not. And so we actually started out when we first got onto Twitter as using it as a listening tool. And now I would say we're much more into the engagement. And as we listen, then we engage based on what we hear. The beauty of what I would tell you about some of the feedback that we see, and you'll see some examples, is that, this is unfiltered, uncensored, honest, candid, humorous, even outrageous sometimes, the things that people will say on Facebook and Twitter. And so I think, but most importantly, it is how our customers are talking in their own voice about our business. And so the customer insights are tremendous. So as you think about getting started, somebody else used this analogy earlier today around the fire hose, and so it was kind of a good lead-in for me, is that there's a ton of information, and so how do you possibly keep track of it all? And so we use a number of tools. There are lots of other ones out there. We use HootSuite to monitor Twitter, and I'm going to actually show you an example in just a minute. There's TweetDeck. There's lots of other ones. We use Shoutlet to manage our Facebook, and then we use something called Visible Intelligence, and that we use to monitor buzz, and we actually use it to drive some of the way our strategies on what we're doing, and I'll show you an example of that as well. So this screen here shows you it's actually a screenshot from somebody's computer in my office, and what this is HootSuite, and it's a social monitoring dashboard. The way this thing works is that we have set up, oh good, my little blinker works. You can see at the top here, mentions, and you can see Ampm. You can see here the hashtag, which is when people want to talk about Ampm, and this one is the @ symbol, so when people are talking to Ampm. And so we've set up all these dashboards, if you will, and we're watching in real time. This thing is populating and showing us what people are saying. We can then write, if we responded, it kind of tells us, so that actually if one person has responded, you don't have more than one person in your team, responding to the same person's tweet. And so this is a tool that we use, and we found it to be quite useful. My last tip before I get into some examples would be this last one, which I think is super important. And this is around rules of engagement. As you get started in this, you've got to have some rules set up so that you don't get yourself into hot water. And so I think the first question you should ask yourself is, who can post on behalf of your company? We've made a very conscious decision around who's allowed to post and who's not allowed to post, because I think you can find yourself in some pretty sticky situations. People are not trained properly, or they don't say things you'd want them to say, and so I think this is actually very, very important. I think you need to think about how are you going to respond to both the positive and the negative, because you get both. I think you need to set up where there's some off-limit topics that you're not going to go there. For example, we see some foul language sometimes, and we have opted not to engage or go there with that. And so I just think there are certain topics that may be relevant for your business that you may decide to stay away from. As I mentioned before, using the voice of your brand It helps for us because we are a playful brand, and so we can have some fun when we're responding. But I think it's important that you stay on brand when you're engaging. And then the last thing I would suggest is that you build a guide of best practices. And why this is important, when we first started, we actually did this internally. I had somebody working for me who did all of the Twitter and Facebook management. And over time, as it became much bigger, we decided to outsource it. We use one of our agencies who does a magnificent job for us. But as we outsourced it, we needed to give them kind of the rules of engagement and give them this guide of best practices so that when they started tweeting on my behalf, they knew what we wanted them to say, how we wanted them to talk to the customers. And so that was a very important thing that we did as well. Okay. Let's have some fun and start looking at some of the examples, because I think this is where it gets quite colorful. So I'm just going to run you through a number of examples. So I don't know if you all are familiar with the way this looks. These are exact tweets from our customers. The spelling has not been corrected. This is exactly the way they gave it to us. So eman3 was the name of somebody who tweeted, and what he said that we picked up on that dashboard: my dad walked out of Ampm with the coffee, he didn't pay. And then that's a little emoticon meant to be a smiley face. And so we responded, that's Ampm, we said at eman3, so we're talking specifically to this person. Next time, why not treat your dad to coffee? Here's a little help. And then you see that blue thing there, that's actually a link to a coupon. And then we said, thanks for the honesty, #Ampm. So kind of a good way to turn something that was not very good in our opinion into maybe something better. Here's another example, barbecue grail. This person wrote, do people really eat this stuff at Arco Ampm? And then you see that link to Instagram, and actually the picture that you see on the left of the screen, that was actually taken at one of our stores. It's a piece of, it's a signage, a promotional signage. And so what we said, Ampm, again talking to BBQ Grail, yeah, in fact, a lot do. Give them a try. Here's a drink coupon to help you wash it down. And so we used another different drink coupon. Instead of the coffee I just showed you, it was fountain. And then Barbecue Grail wrote back to us, okay, I'm impressed. Very nice Twitter work right there, and thanks for the drink coupon. So, it sort of started out potentially a little negative, and you can flip it around and turn it into positive. We use it to follow up on customer service complaints. And so anytime we see anybody post something about a bad situation, we address it. So here, Dave Zula wrote, Ampm's slogan is too much good stuff. I don't know, I probably would have gone with don't touch the restroom key with your bare hands. And so we wrote back, can you tell us which site you visited so we can address the issue? Thanks for the S/O as shout out. And so again, every time we see this, we actually do follow up. We notify the rep goes out to the site, we follow up with the customer, and it just shows it's a good way to build customer loyalty in a different way than some of the other things we've talked about today. Here's another one. Miggy LaFleur wrote, at Ampm has a Twitter, why? And we wrote back, so we can listen to our customers and offer them coupons and discounts. And we hashtagged the better customer experience. Miggy LaFleur wrote back, haha, cool. Thanks for answering the question. This is probably one of my favorite stories. So this person, Rachel Higuera, said, sorry at Ampm, I know you probably paid a lot to promote yourself on here, but no one wants to follow you. So we wrote back, thanks for the shout out, but we didn't, and a lot do. And then we gave a smiley face and a hashtag with smiles. And this Rachel wrote back, haha, I appreciate the kind words. I guess you are all right. And then we said, even if you don't follow us, at least swing by for a drink sometime. And then she wrote back, sweet, thanks. Hey, I featured your Twitter on my blog today. Check it out. So this, I'm about to show you, we didn't pay for this. This was unsolicited. So here's the lesson from the blogger. Sorry, it's a bit small and hard to read, but I'll just run you through it. So when you receive negative feedback on Twitter, this was her blog, this is exactly what she wrote. When you receive negative feedback on Twitter, especially as a company, how do you handle the situation? Today on my personal account, I noticed that Ampm was promoted on Twitter, and so I said, sorry, I know you probably paid a lot, nobody wants to follow you. She wrote then, it was probably rude, but I said it, and there was no point in deleting the comment. Shortly after, I received this response. That was when we said, thanks for the shout out, we don't, but a lot do. And she said, at first, I thought they were being condescending, but then I realized this was a great response. Rather than ignoring me or saying something rude back, they responded to my negative comments and even gave me smiles. And so I felt bad and said, I guess you guys are all right. And they quickly replied, have a great day. And then we sent her that coupon, and then here's what she wrote. In a very few short tweets, they not only convinced me they were cool, they even offered me something for a discount. I'll admit I frequent Ampm for gas, and now I'll probably use that coupon, maybe even follow them on Twitter. They modeled good social media practices and really proved the power of social media in regards to company and customer relations. Your Twitter account can have an impact, good and bad. Make sure that you use it wisely. And so this to me was like a beautiful, beautiful thing that this blogger posted about us, and so we were quite excited. Some other things we have noticed. They love to be recognized. So Hottie Garden said, how did Ampm know to follow me at Twitter? And if for those of you who are Star Wars fans, we said we used the power of the Force. And then we also said we know you're getting thirsty and sent them a coupon. Hottie Garden wrote back, I'm at work, how did you know? And then what the key point here is at the bottom, it says, I can't believe Ampm tweeted me. And so they've just tweeted to all of their friends. They're so excited, they love to get recognized. So when I mentioned to you about visible technologies and how we use some of the data, here's a good example. This is an excerpt from a chart, and what we did was we looked at where the peaks were to see what's driving the conversation. And what you can see, sort of, here's a little small, is that 3 of these topics were around coffee. And so we decided we were going to use coffee as an opportunity. And actually, bad coffee. Now, we're not saying that Ampm has bad coffee, but what we did was we went out and instead of monitoring for Ampm, we started monitoring to see when people said bad coffee, and then we injected ourselves into the conversation. And so here's an example. Kiku Otter said, this coffee is so bad, and we wrote back, every otter deserves a good cup of coffee. And then we sent him a link to that coupon. And Kiku Otter said, at Ampm, you, sir or madam, have won my patronage. Well played. And then he went on to say, I'm an Ampm fan now, complained about bad coffee, they tweeted me. And so you can just see the power of what this can do for you. One other bad coffee example, in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep running through them, but what I wanted to point out was, again, we had another win with this person who mentioned bad coffee, but the point is, this person had 20,000 followers. So we just engaged, and 20,000 people saw us do that, and so that's why this is very, very powerful. We use it to drive advocacy and return visits, and so we listen for positive mentions, and when we see a positive one, because we do see plenty, we also will reinforce with a positive response. We use it to improve the customer experience, and I'm just going to roll through these because I'm running a bit short on time. We use it to pass on the kudos, and so this one, you have the best staff at this particular location, and so what we did was we actually notified the franchisee, we did a big recognition form, and so when you get positive feedback, it's important so you don't just follow up when you get negative, but also when you hear positive. So the other thing I'd like to offer for you is around pictures. How many of you know what Instagram is? Yeah, very good. So one of the things that we have seen in a huge trend is that customers love to post pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. This on the left-hand side that you see is a screenshot just last week. 4,500, almost 4,600 pictures that customers are posting about shopping at Ampm. Like, who would have thought such a thing? And so it's something that we watch and then we use in our responses and whatnot. And so here you can see an example of one of our customers enjoying their Ampm. My last example I want to show you actually used a picture, and this just happened like 2 weeks ago. And this is not something that when you are the keeper of the brand that you like to see appear on anywhere. And so I called it what to do when someone airs your dirty laundry or they air your dirty bathroom. And so this was what was posted. This Steve Jones wrote, hey Arco, and I actually whited out the location, sort your loo. It's like being at Tommy's flat in Train Spotting post-heroin. And you can see the picture, and I thought, oh, that's horrible. But what was even more horrible This person had 115,000 followers, so I was not so excited about that. But what we did, and this is again how you turn that negative into a positive, is that we had somebody go out, make sure the bathroom was clean. We took a picture and we posted it, responding to Steve Jones, at Steve Jones. Thanks, Steve, consider it sorted. And you can see the nice clean bathroom. And what was so cool was what he wrote back was, next time I am passing, would you mind if I popped in to eat my food off that floor? Very impressive. So you can see how this works and what it can do, but you need, some clever people sitting behind the computer that know how to respond. So I'm going to just wrap up here around why I think it's important and what's in it for you. So you get to listen to what your customers are saying about you. You get to really know your customers and what they care about, what they like, what they love, what they dislike, what frustrates them. And then you can engage to add value. You can see some of the things we did. It's as simple as a smile. We like to surprise and delight with a coupon or reward. We drive advocacy and return visits, and really, try to transform frustration into fandom. And so I think, we've had a good run so far. We've learned a lot, and we're going to keep at it, and it's been good fun. So with that, that's all I got.
Yeah, we got one right in the back.
Hi. I was wondering if you had a different way of handling negative feedback on Facebook specifically, because I know it's a little different there because it's easier for people to get in on the conversation, and sometimes if you delete something, it causes more of an issue. An issue.
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I'd say we've probably done a little bit of both. I think it's inauthentic to pull down every negative post that you get on Facebook, because the truth of the matter is you're going to get positive and negative. Sometimes, we try to solve it so that everybody can see, and we'll keep some up there. Sometimes if they don't actually say what the issue is, but they just say, hey, I had this problem, we'll ask them to email it to us at our, Too Much Good Stuff email address or whatever, and we prefer to work them offline. But I think you kind of have to think about how to do it both ways. Yep.
Hi, that was excellent. That's a lot of fun, and what I got out of that is how to be reactive to your customers through social media. Have you started working in a way that you can be proactive with your CRM?
So,
social media?
Yeah, I would say we're much more proactive in Facebook than we are on Twitter. We're kind of listening in on people's conversations, and I don't know that when you just come out with a tweet per se that people are so interested necessarily in what we have to say. They're more having a dialogue with their own their friends or whatever. With Facebook, we are much more proactive. We use pictures, we ask questions, we do surveys, we do all different kinds of things. You saw like the example where we were actually proactive around coffee, right? So that's another way that we're using it, where we watch for trends in the data and then we try to engage where we see an opportunity.
So one thing that interested me in your examples is that it seemed like particularly in the Twitter examples, your Twitter respondent had a very distinctive personality. It was kind of like the 25-year-old hipster in ironic glasses, like sitting there responding. So is that like a conscious choice that was the personality you went for, or is it just that you actually have 25-year-olds sitting there and you just let them tweet whatever they want?
So he's actually not 25, but he'd love that you said that. So the person that we got started with this, he works for me. He's probably in his early 40s. That is kind of the way he operates, but partially it's also the voice of the brand. Mm-hmm. And so we think it's very important that you speak to customers in a way they would expect when they've seen you on TV or the way our stores are decorated or whatever it is. And so it was really around the voice of the brand. As I mentioned during my presentation, we actually recently transitioned, and so that guy who seemed like he was 25-year-old tweeting, we actually have someone else doing it now. Yeah. And we've trained him and we selected him based on his ability to speak in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is intentional.
Yeah, but to your point, that personality is not going to work for every brand.
Right.
Your brand image is pretty far removed from that. You have to take that into account.
Absolutely, and that's why you've got to be, authentic to your brand.
Right.
Otherwise, it doesn't come across as real or genuine.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Great. We have time for one more. Over here.
Hi, I'm impressed that your company doesn't seem to have a lot of silos between the different areas, that when you get a response, or when you got a response, you're able to clean the bathroom, do various things. How have you organized it so that when you get a tweet and there's some kind of action that needs to be done, I'm assuming your team's not handling all of that. Do you have other, what I'll call sub-teams behind the scenes, where you go and they handle the customer issues or they handle the celebrations? Or are you just working with existing teams? You're just now one more stream for them?
So it's a really good question, and you kind of got to ask what's the best way to wisely use your resources. And as you mentioned, I'm not sure having my team chase down all of these things would be the best use. One of the guys does end up doing some of the chasing down. He works very closely with our field, sales team to make sure that it gets out to the particular sites. And so part of that, it just is the nature of our organization and how we're set up. We do also have a call center that takes customer complaints, and sometimes we'll use that call center to actually be the one to track and make sure that the things get closed out. I would say that's definitely an area of opportunity for us to institutionalize that even better, but we do use that sometimes as well to make sure that they get followed up and closed.
Okay, great. Good stuff. Thank you very much.
No pun intended, right?